In today's video, I want to try and go through, we're on day 2 now since the big Google update, and I want to basically go through and assess the damage we've already seen. And so far, the data coming through is actually really interesting, mainly because traditionally when there's a Google update, they say it's going to take several weeks to actually roll out. And so you really can't draw any conclusions until that has finished. And in the meantime, we expect a lot of volatility. But the really interesting thing about this update was actually very early on, we had a wave of hype around certain sites getting completely de-indexed from Google. Now, we need to be quite clear here because these sites getting de-indexed were quite specifically targeted with manual actions. So far, it doesn't look like this is part of the more broader algorithmic update, which we can expect to take hold over the next few weeks. So basically what we're seeing is the sites being de-indexed are typical of the mass programmatic AI sites, huge amounts of low quality content, often put onto an expired domain, which initially was creating a beautiful graph. And I've no doubt they made plenty of money in the meantime, but now they're being completely de-indexed. Now that's merely an exaggeration of the pattern we were already seeing. Loads of people for the last year or two, since the AI explosion, have been pumping out these mass programmatic sites and showing off these amazing charts. And you do quite quickly see they do die off, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with churn and burn if you make money in those few months where you're really crushing it. In fact, having been going through a lot of the sites that have been de-indexed, a lot of them actually had a lot of volatility before then. So months ago, they were getting their traffic dropped by 50-60%. And it's only the last few days that they've been fully de-indexed. But the de-indexing is certainly concerning. That's clearly Google sending a message going in very specifically targeting certain types of websites. So in my analysis yesterday of the Google update, if you've been in the industry a while, you'll know that Google updates, they come out with the release, and there's always a lot of posturing, and lots of people panic saying, well, this tactic and this tactic, all these things I've listed, they're not going to work anymore. Well, it was 10 years ago that Google was saying things like PBNs won't work anymore, expired domains won't work anymore, you can't build backlinks anymore. And we've seen these claims being completely unsubstantiated ever since then. So Google making bold gestures is nothing new, trying to actually manipulate the overall market into behaving in a certain kind of way. So you could say that yes, they're tweaking the algorithm on one hand, but also they're trying to tweak public perception to try and create mass change in terms of how we use the internet, how we as SEOs operate. So it's basically fear-mongering. I mean, who can blame them? They do have a very difficult job in terms of trying to keep their search results high quality, despite the actions of people watching this video. So the first victim was my friend and colleague, Julian Goldie, almost certainly YouTube's biggest advocate for AI and SEO. And his website was basically completely obliterated from search. So today it seems to be back. In fact, quite a lot of pages are coming back, including individual blog posts rather than just branded pages. So this is pretty interesting. Obviously, you felt sorry for him, but I suspect at the same time, what a PR win when you get completely removed from Google because you're too good, you're too public with what you do. So maybe that's the reason Google seems to roll back and actually got it back in the index, or maybe they just realized they are going too far. They're making a big public statement. So like I say, we're seeing these two things going on. We've got the algorithmic changes going on in the background, which are going to take a few weeks to roll out. But then we have this big sort of Google PR machine, if you like, the fear mongering, telling SEOs, don't mess with the algorithm, because this is what will happen to you. So big gesture, that's one aspect. You probably saw when I opened this, I've been posting on LinkedIn and Twitter saying I'm feeling very small and jealous that I was not included in this ban hammer, but I'm not really focused on my personal brand website. So not forgetting I'm racing to keep up with Goldie, but I am still a long way off. So getting banned and blacklisted from Google, that's almost like a trophy I feel like we can all rise to. So number one target, SEO influencers. Not that surprising, but then we're also seeing their public case studies hit. So that's been one of the major themes. Not forgetting these influencers, of course, that have enormous reach. Therefore, they can shape the dialogue of what people are talking about with this update. So if they all come out saying our public case studies is being hit, then it gives the impression that loads of sites are being hit. In reality, if you're in SEO, then generally you do have to accept that if you go public with using shady tactics on the website, and revealing that website, then you are in danger. I tend to keep my URLs secret when I do public case studies, not just because of Google, but you've also got things like DDoS attacks and hacks. It's just generally a good thing to do. Sometimes I do like the transparency of going fully public with a domain name, but then I have to take that risk that it could be destroyed. Therefore, I never do it with a site that I truly care about. That's not to say if a site's just starting, it might well go on to do huge revenue in the future. So if I do an open case study, then I have to accept if this turns into a real money site, earning significant revenue, then I'm endangering it from the start if I reveal the URL. Now, the slight complication there is lots of these influencers and other people doing mass AI content, they were putting multiple domains on the same Google Search Console account. Now, this has been debated for years, especially in the PBN side of things. If you're building a PBN, so a private blog network designed to give yourself easy backlinks, then it's widely known you need to cover your tracks, make sure there's no obvious connection between these websites. So on the face of it, different themes, different content, different designs, but underneath that, you want different IP addresses. You can do that using Cloudflare or using separate PBN hosting. But then we also get into Google accounts, and that does apply to your own portfolio of websites aside from PBNs. Even if you're fairly white hat, I got this advice a good few years ago now, where someone just said quite openly that if I were Google and I saw this one Google account had got 5-10 websites on it that were all very SEO optimized, all targeting keywords, all affiliate blogs in all kinds of different industries, then that kind of proves to Google that you're not a subject matter expert, you're not an honest blogger, you're an SEO targeting different industries with the same tactics, and therefore you're kind of going against what they want. So it's exactly for that reason that generally when I am working with expired domains and other more aggressive websites, I will generally create a fresh Gmail and then set up a new Search Console account just for that website. And that's even if I think Search Console is actually necessary in the first place. You'll notice that generally I just use basic A in most of my projects. Because I've got all these different tests and experiments all over the place, there's really very few websites that I fully concentrate on to the level that I think it's worth actually putting it on Search Console, checking in regularly, and doing that kind of detailed work. If you were doing a PBN, then you do get into the realm where people start saying, well, you're using the same Chrome browser, maybe you should be using incognito, maybe you should be using proxies. Generally, I just use incognito for those separate Google accounts, but generally, I think that's overthinking it. I think unless you are someone like Julian and Goldie, then the same Chrome profile is not going to be a massive flag. But putting all your websites in the same Search Console account, that could be a flag. And I've seen this before when local SEOs show off when they get their monthly reports, and they'll get 20 client reports all at once, all saying how many clicks your site has increased by. So they'll show their Gmail inbox full of all these reports showing normally positive growth. But I've seen those screenshots very quickly shouted down on the grounds that if anything goes wrong, then you can see a correlation between all those accounts that's your Search Console account. So again, whether it's your own website, whether it's client, ideally keep fairly clean in the first place. If you're doing anything aggressive and dodgy, then isolate those into separate Search Console accounts. But even then, for cleaner stuff, don't go mad putting 10, 20 Search Console accounts together. Maybe between 3 and 5 should be safe, as long as you're confident those are all behaving themselves. So big victims so far, SEO influencers and other secret projects on those same Google Search Console accounts. And that can be extended to other people doing mass AI content as well. Now that brings me on to our next big victim. So literally just a few days ago, I came across this Equity Atlas site because I'd had my eyes on the celebrity net worth niche for quite a while, thinking that'd be an interesting mass AI case study. And I found this site that was obviously doing pure ChatGPT content and had grown to 1.5 million visitors in just 6 months. But the new Google March update came out literally as I was recording and editing that particular video, and within a matter of hours, Equity Atlas, as some of you pointed out on that video, was completely de-indexed. So the problem with Google updates is tools like Ahrefs do have a delay where they're still crawling the search results. They're not going to be up to the minute all the time, but you can actually see the effects coming through already, because every one of these hit sites that I'm going to show you, you can see fairly standard volatility for the last few days, and then today, really clear, absolutely no positive increases, and a whole lot of downward decreases. So that's basically the peak of the mountain, if you like, where everything's going to start falling apart, and that traffic growth, that traffic chart is now going to start updating and show that decline. But in reality, it has already gone. So what a great time in my case to be launching my own public case study revealing the URL for a mass celebrity net worth site. So this is going to be pretty interesting in terms of, I already spoke yesterday before the update came out saying, I think 100, 200 posts to start off with. That's just a good grounding. What you got to remember is lots of developers, when they build a website, they will block Google in the robots tech. And so because of that, when Google first indexes a site, it's perfectly likely there could be anywhere from just a handful of pages to several hundred pages on there on a new website. So I'm really not worried about putting 100, 200 pages on there. But I think going forward, let's stick to sensible numbers. Literally, as I discussed yesterday, as you know from my videos, I fully take multiple perspectives. I don't believe in absolutes. But I did say yesterday that I think 10, 20, 30 posts a day is probably about right. That's more like you've got a team of writers working for you. Whereas once you're getting into the hundreds per day, that's when it starts to look very unrealistic. And that's basically the common denominator in all these examples I'm going to show you today. So here's another one, Communicate Magazine. And again, they've got this very clear, massive decrease on the 7th. Starting yesterday, of course, Ahrefs tells you where there's been an update, and there's no other way around it. You can see a clear correlation. Update comes, keywords disappear. And again, it's kind of a celebrity news site, very high volume, very low value. These don't even have a CP. But again, how can you check if it's indexed? just do a site :search, and that will tell you what's currently in the index. And in this case, it is completely gone. This is a site that recently had around 1 million traffic. But again, going to that point about content velocity, we can see organic pages starting with 800. So right at the beginning of the Ahrefs history, 800 pages, and then scaling into the thousands literally within weeks. So 1st to 7th of January, 14,000, and then the following week, 18,000, then 23,000, then 32,000. So around 4,000 or 5,000 pages per week. So if we take out weekends, that's 1,000 pages per day. Another one here, interesting to name, a HNet. Again, same signature, update comes in, keywords gone. And again, celebrity news, net worth, much smaller traffic this time. But again, let's see gradual growth through most of last year. And then from July onwards, 184 pages and 1,000 pages at the start of September. 200 pages by the end of September. Now, let's not forget, a lot of these mass AI content sites were also built on expired domains, which is a great strategy pre this month, because we know that an expired domain already has backlink power, already has history. If you put a load of AI content on it, we've seen loads of case studies like this, where you can get very rapid results. And even if it's churn and burn, if it does burn, the chances are you've already made a lot of money. So we can see on Equity Atlas, they had backlinks going back years. So strong sign of an expired domain. If I checked the backlinks, it was looking like it really was an atlas of some sort. It's a .org as well, which implies it was an organization of some sort. And in the Wayback Machine, we can see this. It was an actual atlas. The Regional Equity Atlas is coming soon. Portland's Regional Equity Atlas has used maps, policy analysis, and community-based research to promote widespread opportunity for stronger health in a more sustainable region. So 2 things that Google is specifically targeting in the latest update that this site has done. Communicate Magazine looks like the same sort of story. Lots of backlinks going back a long period of time. So pretty interesting. It did have some web presence. We can see, around 1,000 pages of content there. I think it really was an actual magazine. So I don't know if it was the same people who then ramped up with AI content, or whether someone else bought the domain and then hit it with AI content. But either way, we see a rapid increase from, at this point, just a few hundred pages to then 50,000 pages. And that's from the end of November to the beginning of March, so about 3 months, 50,000 pages. Now, just one other thing to watch out for in the current hysteria. We've known that a lot of mass AI sites do churn and burn. They do seem to lose a lot of their traffic after an initial spike, and that's regardless of the update. So I saw this domain was reported as being a victim of the most recent update and completely de-indexed, but actually it was already hit, so we can see significant traffic drop in December from 1.3 million down to about 600,000. So about a 60% drop. But now post the update, it's now completely gone from search. It has been de-indexed. The really difficult thing about this update is we're talking about AI content, but that's such a broad thing. I've had people reaching out to me asking for my observations on how AI content performs. And the fact is, there's so many different ways of putting that. So as you've seen on my channel, generally, we will take surfer recommendations and put that into ChatGPT. But even then, we still regard that as a first draft, and we generally recommend human editing after that. So that's already about 3 layers of optimization, not forgetting we use the surfer insert terms feature, which again disrupts that patterning. So is all AI content doomed? Absolutely not. This is one of my clients that I've had for a number of years. They're an insurance company doing £50,000 per month, all through organic. And actually, the last few days, a lot of their content is actually improving in rankings. And most of this was actually written with Jasper back about 2 years ago. So this was when basically you could import surfer templates into Jasper and basically press the button, get a paragraph, press the button again, get another paragraph. So you can gradually build yourself an article using AI content. So this massively sped us up, but it was a long way from the one-click article generators of today. So if I just go back over the last few days, you can see lots of these are now scoring featured snippets. Now, I'm not saying this is specifically improved because of the update, but you can see from the CPCs, we were targeting low competition info keywords with a low CPC, and we were using AI with, humans with a lot of AI assistance, publishing at a high rate for the time, but it was not hundreds per day. And so that content continues to do incredibly well. Now, what about the other part of the Google update, the other major target? We've had expired domains, we've had mass AI content, and we've had SEO influencers. But what about Parasite SEO? That's the big question. There's been an enormous growth opportunity over the last year or so, especially in the wake of the helpful content update, where lots of high quality publishers got tanked in a very unpredictable manner. Instead, all these parasites rose to the top. Well, let's have a look at the ultimate parasite, the classic Outlook India. You'd have thought the ultimate target, we're always checking in, why hasn't it been hit? And we're not really seeing any change. Maybe an increase in drop rankings, but very far from a de-indexing. In fact, when I checked last night, we can see that their page on Sugar Daddy websites went up from position 7 to position 3 in the immediate wake of the update. Now, this is the kind of thing that's going to be a longer burn. This is the kind of algorithmic twist that's going to take a few weeks to iron out. Not forgetting the update did say Parasite publishers have got 2 months to sort themselves out, basically, which personally I think is just scaremongering. I think it could be very dangerous if these sites start basically wiping out archives of content that people have paid for. Some are paying for long-term exclusive deals. So this is a big shakeup. But so far, no impact on Parasite. My cannabis SEO article still ranking on LinkedIn on page 1. Let's have a look at the LinkedIn Parasite page where I specifically took a powerful expired domain and redirected my LinkedIn page. So we're doing 2 things that Google doesn't want. We're doing Parasite and we're using an expired domain redirect. And yes, I dropped 16 keywords today, but actually the other day on Monday before the update, I lost 21 keywords, so I think we're within the normal realms of, so if we have a look at the individual calendar rankings, you've got to be careful with this. It's that idea of signal versus noise. If we're focusing on these tiny micro movements, then we're not getting a sense of the overall picture. It's all too early to tell, but we're all desperate to get some idea, some reassurance of what's going on. And yes, I've dropped down from number 1 to number 8 on a 3,300 volume keyword. I've lost a bit on a 20,000 volume keyword, but I've moved up significantly on an 8,400 keyword. So I'd say this is perfectly within normal volatility, especially as LinkedIn pages do tend to be volatile anyway. My biggest and most annoying hit so far does seem to be some of the Reddit pages that I was doing really well on. I was doing about $1,000 per week on this one, and I was going to do a little case study on it, on the fact that one of my accounts actually got banned, but it didn't matter because when Reddit bans your account, generally your comment stays there. It just says it's from a deleted account, but your comment and your position actually remains. So initially, there was no hit to my actual clicks and revenue. However, it does seem like with the general shakeup of the update going on, shaking up all these search results, it does seem that that page that I was really focused on has lost a lot of traffic. So today we can see huge amounts of traffic disappearing. But if I check the actual search result, there are still Reddit rankings very high up. So I think this big update, this big reset just means some subreddits have been bumped and some Reddit posts have now risen up in different places. So we've always known that's a risk with Reddit SEO, where you might be number 1 on this thread, which is great if it's ranking right now, but there's no guarantee that in a few weeks' time, someone else is going to target that same keyword and rank a new post above that. If you're in the discussions and forum snippet, then the chances are a viewer is just going to click through all 3 of those, gathering information. So there's a very good chance your affiliate link will still get clicked, especially if you manage to post and upvote yourself on all of those links. But of course, it's very ephemeral, it's very changing. It's not like the good old days, building a website, gradual growth curve over time, and then securing that position. You've got the time in the market, you've aged the page, you've built some backlinks. It takes a lot of work for someone to actually outrank that page. Very different story with any form of Parasite. And one other thing actually to mention about these Parasite posts, all of them are AI. They're not plain ChatGPT, we're always using entities. So of the ones I've shown you, I've just been using the basic autoblogging.ai godlike mode, where basically it will scrape your competitors and try and extract entities, and then write an article based on that, which is why it ranks so well. And like I say, anytime we do use ChatGPT, it does tend to be all the entities from Surfer and training ChatGPT to write with those entities. So AI content for now doesn't seem to be the problem if it's done, if it's tailored. I think with all things, these things, the key is just moderation. If you've been taking an expired domain and then slamming it with thousands of articles per week, then those seem to be the major issues we've seen. Long term, over the next few weeks, we should see more of the subtle nuances of this update. We need to look at a lot of sites, a lot of data to really dig deep into what's going on. But like I say, it's too much of a simplification to just say AI content is no longer relevant. One final thing I just wanted to cover is expired domains. I use expired domains a lot. Going through my portfolio, there does seem to be a bit of a dip. It's still very early days, but generally in the first few days of an update like this, you generally see a bit of a dip across the board anyway. So maybe there's a negative impact coming, but again, I'm very suspicious of that being enforced. Because like I say, the thing with expired domains is you want to ensure the relevance. You want to use an expired domain and put content on it that is very similar to what was there before. Now that could be within quite a broad topic. So you can just take a software domain and then use it for another software product. But basically, the closer you can get to that original theme, the better. So far, I don't think we're seeing anything new in terms of, I generally like to be aggressive, but there's still principles of moderation in that. The clear victims we've seen so far have gone really hard, really fast. For the average business owner, I don't think we're seeing a big issue yet. AI content is still working, Parasite SEO is still working, but if you are building multiple websites, keep it to separate Google accounts. And if you do happen to have quite a big public following, then do not reveal your niche. Do not reveal your URL for any website you seriously care about and rely on. Google bans like that have happened plenty of times before. That's why a lot of big SEOs do use pseudonyms, and unfortunately, that's just the game we're playing. Our job as SEOs is basically reverse engineering the formulas, finding the loopholes, finding the opportunities, and then when they close up, again, Google's this big, massive machine. There's always going to be new opportunities. We've just got to find out where they are and how to use them effectively.